Real Madrid's miracle worker, the coach who bends reality. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 51. What a hoot. At this time, Perez smiled confidently. But, Mr. President, Sanchez said with some concern. Needless to say, this matter will be entrusted to you. With that, Perez waved softly at Sanchez. Well, Mr. President. Sanchez slowly exited the president's office, then sighed helplessly. At Real Madrid's post-match press conference, Solari took the initiative to sit at the interview table. At this time, in the interview room, reporters stood in every interview position. Reporters saw Solari, who has almost completely lost his record since becoming the acting manager of Real Madrid, and almost all the cameras on the scene were aimed at him. Coach Solari, will you resign directly? At this time, the first question posed by a reporter at the bottom was quite sharp. It should be. Solari smiled and replied succinctly. What do you think caused the defeat of these important games for Real Madrid? Another reporter continued to ask questions. It's my own ability problem. The Real Madrid players are like a big ship, and I'm just a low-quality engine. Solari smiled and said that at the moment he had questions to reporters. So who do you think is responsible for the team's failures? At this point, the reporter who raised the question clearly dug a pit for Solari. Oh, of course, it should be the head coach of the team who is responsible. Solari did not shy away from answering reporters' questions directly. Does that mean Coach Solari will take all the responsibility on your own initiative? The reporter continued to ask. No, I'm not talking about coaching myself. The head coach of our team has always been Mr. Lin Guang. As an assistant coach, isn't it very reasonable for me to lose? Solari replied lightly, then smiled slyly. Reporters? At this point, everyone was quiet about Solari's answer, and the entire interview room was suddenly heard. This man's face is really. Yeah, although on the surface he's an assistant coach, who doesn't understand that he's in charge of the team. That Lin Guang is also a professional backpot, no one is in the team, and the responsibility for losing the ball still falls on him. At this time, the reporters whispered in the interview area. However, although everyone knows this about Real Madrid in their hearts, it does not prevent this from being a very hot news. So, the reporters' shots and questions continued to focus on Solari, and the atmosphere in the interview room was once lively. Team captain Cassie, who was sitting on the edge of the interview table, shook his head helplessly, and casually found an excuse and left early. At this moment, Solari was sitting in the middle of the interview table, smiling and giggling, but inside he was what it was. Because Solari knew he had to say so at the press conference, because his face represented the face of the President Buddha. Otherwise, how could he, who is well versed in the rules of the workplace, pick the fruit at the right time during the rise of the team? Sneeze. At this time, people were sitting at home, and Lin Guang, who came up from the sky, sneezed inexplicably. Episode 52. Jingle Bells. At this time, Lin Guang's mobile phone suddenly rang. Looking at the name on the phone screen, Lin Guang quickly connected the phone. Mr. Sanchez? So early, what's the matter? At this time, Lin Guang yawned as he spoke. Your boy is still sleeping? I also calculated the jet lag, and I guess it should be morning there, right? Is it convenient to talk now? Sanchez asked helplessly on the phone. Yes, I didn't sleep much last night anyway. Lin Guang stretched out, then got up and poured himself a glass of water. Lin Guang, have you watched the recent Real Madrid matches? Do you know what the fans on the internet are saying about you now? At this point, Sanchez continued on the other end of the phone. Real Madrid's game? I've seen it all. The new coach is quite good at playing, but now the team's results, you have to cheer up. After Lin Guang took a sip of water, he said playfully. What's the matter? Your boy still has a grudge in his heart now. Don't forget, Lin Guang is the head coach of Real Madrid. Sanchez heard that and replied with some nervousness. I'm an interim manager, and it's not normal for me to be called by the Real Madrid executives, isn't it? So, I don't dare to have any resentment, haha. Head coach? I know I am so, Lin Guang continued. So, don't come back to work yet. Sanchez said with a smile. Subsequently, he told Lin Guang all the difficulties and conditions that Real Madrid is currently encountering. Because of the matter of inviting Lin Guang to return to the team, although Sanchez felt that Perez had entrusted the matter to himself, the Real Madrid president was indeed a little embarrassed. However, Sanchez also believes that Lin Guang is a smart person, and it is the best way to throw the problem to himself to make a choice. Ahem. The big guy also knows that he can't tie me up with a coaching contract, because I can't work hard, he can't help me. That's why Mr. Sanchez was called to talk to me. The corners of Lin Guang's mouth cocked, and then he sneered. Oh, everything is exactly as Coach Lin expected. So, what do you think now? Sanchez knew that chatting with smart people didn't require much nonsense. It seems that Mr. Sanchez, the face of the club manager, Lin Guang had to give a. But, you team executives, don't always think of me as a firefighter, I'm also busy. Lin Guang put the water cup away and said lightly. Haha, what kind of requirements does Coach Lin Guang have after he returns to the team? Sanchez heard the words, his tense expression stretched for an instant, and then asked with a smile. First, don't interfere with any of my coaching decisions. Second, after the team is out of the woods, I will decide to leave at any time. Even if the contract period has not yet arrived, at this time, Lin Guang solemnly replied. Good. No problem, but can I ask why I want to leave at any time when the time comes? Sanchez immediately assured, and then he began to wonder. I agreed to return to the team this time, of course, there are also reasons why Mr. Sanchez usually takes care of me. But more than that, there's a bunch of players out there who trust me. Even if I were to leave, I would say a formal goodbye to them before leaving. Why is this happening? Does Mr. Sanchez really think that I am a coach that no one wants? At this time, Lin Guang replied playfully again. I see. Lin Guang, you. Come back as soon as possible, team, need you. Sanchez finished talking and hung up. At this moment, Lin Guang was looking out the window, reviewing the conversation just now, and he couldn't stop sighing. After half a day, Lin Guang changed his formal clothes and left from the lounge where he stayed. For now, he had to go to the feast at Ronaldo's. At noon, Lin Guang and Ronaldo came to the restaurant where they had agreed upon, and the two sat opposite each other. Mr. Lin Guang, I thought about it last night, and my sincerity really touched me. But my physical condition is indeed the biggest obstacle to playing football. If you don't give up, I am willing to join your team for half a season. During this time, you can let me play as a substitute for a few minutes, or join your coaching team. Half a season later, I have to go through the next phase of my life. At this time, Ronaldo said very sincerely to Lin Guang. Why does Mr. Ronnie suddenly figure it out now? Lin Guang asked with a smile, and then gently bumped the wine glass with Ronaldo. I really like football so much. And, as I said yesterday, it's hard for every athlete to accept the fact that he has to retire. And Coach Lin Guang's appearance gave me the idea of the last struggle before retiring. Ronaldo replied with a wry smile. And just as Lin Guang was preparing to comfort Ronaldo, a familiar voice suddenly sounded in his head. Episode 53, Ding. Congratulations to the host for being recognized by the Real Madrid team and welcoming by fans around the world. The host's ability to coach has greatly increased the demand for you by Real Madrid players and fans. I hereby reward 1 player peak card, 1 player health card, and +2 prestige. At this time, the sound of the system suddenly sounded in Lin Guang's head. I'll go. What's going on here? Is it because Real Madrid's consecutive defeats have set off their own strength? So, the prestige is unconsciously increased? Lin Guang was a little dizzy, and he didn't know if it was the reason for drinking red wine at this time. System, doesn't the prestige have to be earned and improved by winning the game? How can you be popular with the fans and get prestige? At this time, Lin Guang was confused and communicated with the system. Restoring the host and winning the game to gain prestige is just one of those aspects. The system will also synthesize the various influences of the host in football to determine whether to increase prestige. At this moment, the system immediately replied. Reputation +2, is that my cumulative value of 75? Then can I recruit now, the fat guy who knows the ball, sitting across from me? Hearing the system's answer, Lin Guang was very excited and ridiculed. Yes. The host can currently recruit Ronaldo players. The system continued to answer. Lin Guangyan nodded slightly, but at the moment, he just took another sip of the red wine in his glass. Ronnie, I can totally understand what you're thinking right now. Since you trust me, try it out with me for another half a season. After half a season, whether you choose to retire or continue to play, I respect your final decision. At this time, Lin Guang solemnly said to Ronaldo. Lin Guang's recruitment of this alien has actually long been thought out, and after half a season, no matter how Ronnie performs, he will be untied. Whether to continue playing football or simply retire, it is up to Ronnie to decide. Thank you for your trust, Coach Lin Guang. It is an honor and look forward to the upcoming cooperation. Ronaldo replied with a smile. After speaking, Ronaldo and Lin Guang touched the cup again. Lin Guang exhaled easily, and he finally waited for Ronnie's consent. I'm sorry, I'm going to the bathroom now. Lin Guang smiled and said to Ronaldo. Ronaldo heard the words and nodded his head in greeting. System. Recruit Ronaldo now. After Lin Guang got up from his position, he quickly communicated with the system. With that, he walked quickly toward the bathroom. With the experience of recruiting Casemiro last time, Lin Guang knew that at this time he had to hide far away. Received instructions from the host. Ronaldo player, recruitment successful. At this moment, the system immediately replied. After a while, there was an excited voice in the restaurant. Coach Lin Guang. I'm really looking forward to playing under your coaching. Lin Guang and Ronaldo's dinner, guests have fun. Lin Guang told Ronaldo that he would arrange for personnel to go to Corinthians for a transfer during the winter break. Ronaldo gladly accepted and promised Lin Guang that he would actively lose weight and exercise in the following time. At this point, Lin Guang's entire trip to the Samba country was full of harvests. While accompanied by Iranians, Ronaldo and Casemiro were also taken into his command in advance. So, in the afternoon of the same day, Lin Guang packed up his bags and got on the plane back to the West Tooth country. Because there are still many things waiting for him to complete. There are still 2 days left before Real Madrid's final Champions League group game at home to Zenit. At one of the club's training grounds, Real Madrid's players, led by Captain Casillas, complete regular training in various footballs. At present, they have been uncoached for 2 consecutive days. The chaotic state of Real Madrid during this period made the players panic. There is a life and death match with Zenit soon, which is related to whether Real Madrid can successfully qualify from the group. But the whole Real Madrid team from top to bottom, almost completely without confidence. Just as Cassie was once again preparing to announce the end of the day's training, a loud whistle suddenly came. Beep. At this time, I saw a man wearing a blue down team uniform and a duck-tongue hat slowly entering the training ground. Assemble the whole team. At this moment, the man walked to the middle of the training ground and shouted loudly. Here I go. Wow. No, it won't. Coach Lin Guang. You're finally back. At this time, the Real Madrid players all ran excitedly towards Lin Guang's position. Episode 54, Yay! 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 At this time, Lin Guang was constantly thrown and dropped by the players rhythmically. Seeing that the players respected themselves so much, Lin Guang's heart was also warm. After everyone had put Lin Guang safely on the ground, he hugged the players one by one. Coach, you're finally back. Brothers miss you so much. At this time, Benzema said to Lin Guang. Yo, big stupid horse. Long time no see, has there been a backpot recently? Lin Guang looked at Benzema and then said happily. Benzema, senior coach, welcome back to the team. If you don't show some magic, our team will win now. At this time, Granero said excitedly. Yo, stinky pirates. When did I shave my beard, although it looks far less handsome than mine, but... You look very energetic. Lin Guang patted Granero's shoulder and then continued to tease his own players. Granero. Oh, Coach Lin Guang is back? Have you made any new medical discoveries lately? Look how tired you are, hurry up and have a cup of coffee. At this time, one of the members of the team continued to speak to Lin Guang. Yo, it's not. How did you, the stinky team doctor, appear here now? Also, when did this cup of coffee come out? Lin Guang looked at Dr. Moss in front of him with a puzzled face. Well, Coach Lin Guang, why do you always care about these details? And, as a team doctor, it's reasonable to be around the players at all times. Dr. Moss said with a sigh of relief. Lin Guang. Next, Lin Guang continued to play with the players, and then reminisced about the past, showing the team's general feelings. At this time, 2 middle-aged men stood quietly at the door outside the training ground. Alas, such a coach, such a team atmosphere, why doesn't Mr. President cherish it? Sanchez shook his head, sighing inwardly. By the way, Coach Solari, if you really decide, go in yourself. Sanchez looked at the man next to him and left alone. Solari nodded at Sanchez and strode toward the training ground. The next game against Zenit, we not only have to win, but also have a big win. Because Manchester United are already qualified, we have to fight for the final place in this group. And according to the analysis, even if we win, we have to look at the face of Manchester United. In order to qualify, Lazio will definitely go all out on the road. So now it depends on whether United want to be first in the group or second in the group. At this time, Lin Guang began to analyze the situation of the Champions League group stage for the players. And he and the players are sitting on the turf of the training ground at the moment. Coach, what can we do now? This feeling of sitting still and waiting to die is really anxious. At this time, Si Luo said with some concern. Everyone listens to me, everyone relaxes, and goes all out for the final game. The match against Zenit, we must win. Score this piece, the more the merrier, Lin Guang signaled the players not to be impatient. Yes, coach. At this moment, the Real Madrid players are all speaking in unison. Hello everyone, Assistant Coach Solari, come and check in. Just then, a loud voice sounded. Coach Solari? What's the situation with you? At this moment, Lin Guang and the players all stood up. Report to Coach Lin Guang, I have always been your assistant coach. In the future, if there are any team chores, you can tell me this assistant to do it. At this time, Solari said to everyone with a smile on his face. Sashwai, didn't you return to Castile 2 days ago? At this time, Casillas asked doubtfully. I heard that Coach Lin Guang has returned, so I applied to Mr. President to continue as an assistant coach. As you can see, my coaching level is really not good. This time, I just stayed with Coach Lin Guang for a while and studied well, Solari explained, still smiling. Suashwai, wouldn't you feel embarrassed by this? At this time, Pepe and the crowd came out coldly. For Pepe's daredevil words, Ramos quickly and secretly kicked him. Oh, no. As long as I'm not embarrassed, it's someone else who is embarrassed. Solari replied freely. Since the last shocking at the press conference, Solari feels that he has no dignity as a big coach. Well, Assistant Coach Solari, please organize the staff to move some training props immediately. For the rest of today, I'm going to train these stinky boys well. Lin Guangyan only smiled slightly, and then immediately issued his first coaching instructions after returning to the team. Don't. At this time, the players in the training ground let out a series of screams. Episode 55, for the sudden addition of an assistant around him, Lin Guang actually did not care. Whether Solari really wants to learn something around him or waits to see his jokes. Lin Guang's current final coaching time at Real Madrid is just a matter of just getting the team's results on track. Then the Real Madrid coaching job, the perfect transition to the upcoming Mourinho. As a temporary coach, Lin Guang has never had a sense of belonging here. It was only the knowledge that manager Sanchez had always had, and the players' trust in himself, that allowed Lin Guang to temporarily persist. Therefore, Lin Guang felt that as long as no one interfered with his coaching work during this time, it would be excellent to have an assistant who could point fingers at him. Lin Guang did not idle for 2 days after returning to the team, except for giving the team a half-day off before the start of the game. The rest of the time he and the players spent in the training ground and fitness room. Kaka also successfully returned from injury under the treatment of Real Madrid's magic team Dr. Moss. As a result, the very ordinary Champions League group game between Real Madrid and Zenit became very interesting before the match. The return of Lin Guang, the comeback of Kaka, whether Real Madrid can qualify from the group. And this game is also full of topics in the whole network. Just the morning of the match, Real Madrid tactical analysis room. Since it is a home game, Lin Guang is here to make a final tactical elaboration for the players. Solari also seems to have adapted to his work as a teaching assistant, and he has prepared the tactical board and sandbox early before the players arrive in the tactical analysis room. While Lin Guang was giving tactical guidance to the players, Solari also sat among the players, taking notes carefully. Well, this game where we have to win big, do you have any suggestions for formation and tactics? At this time, Lin Guang stood in front of an oversized tactical board and smiled at the players. Coach, since we want to score more goals, let's start with a 172 formation. At this time, Ramos looked at Lin Guang and said very excitedly. I agree. Benzema looked at his teammates and then raised his hand in reply. Lin Guang heard the words and shook his head gently. No attitude. Such an important game, actually think of using the 172 formation? At this time, Lin Guang saw that no one continued to answer, so he smiled and said. Just then, Solari, who was sitting with the players, also raised his hand. Oh? Assistant Coach Solari, tell me your own advice. Lin Guang saw this and said to Solari with an indifferent face. Coach, I think the 433's attacking formation is better. The impact of the 3 strikers has helped the team a lot in scoring goals. The last time we experienced the 172 formation, the connection between the midfield and the midfield was simply chaotic. That's why we were only poked 5 goals by Lazio last time on the road. At this time, Solari solemnly suggested. It seemed to be a recollection of the unbearable past, and the expression on his face still carried a hint of pity. At this time, the Real Madrid players heard the words and gradually fell silent. Hey, this guy is deliberately trying to disturb my team's mind, right? Just because you failed doesn't mean I can't do it. Lin Guang gave Solari a fierce look in his heart at this moment. Too conservative. The 4-3-3 formation is good, but it is too dependent on the organization of the midfield. If the other side is at ease to swing the bus to defend, maybe we will win, but we definitely can't score a few goals. At this time, Lin Guang very decisively rejected Solari's suggestion. After hearing Lin Guang's evaluation, Solari lowered his head darkly, and then kept writing something in his notebook. With a 172 formation, no attitude. With a 433 formation, too conservative. What is Coach Lin Guang selling in this gourd? The players were puzzled, and the tactical analysis room fell silent again. Lin Guang saw this and smiled slightly. Then he picked up a black marker, turned to the white tactical board behind him, and wrote down the 3 numbers, 109. This means that Real Madrid will execute the 9-striker and attack formation tactics in the opening game. At this moment, when the players looked at it, they suddenly realized, and then they all shouted with excitement. But Solari sat silently on the stool at the moment, watching all this in amazement. Is this Lin Guang's attitude? Is this tactically not conservative? Solari remembers the complete collapse of the team after it changed from 172 to 109. Maybe fans find this strange formation fun, but Solari has personally tried the consequences of this nonsense. Coach, how many goals do you think we scored in this game? At this moment, Benzema's eyes were already emitting light. Lin Guang thought quietly for a while, and then said lightly, how many goals are right? Then at least 2 digits. Episode 56, oh yes. At this time, hearing Lin Guang's confident words, the players cheered again. For double-digit goals and the determination of the formation, Lin Guang has his own considerations. The strength of the Real Madrid stars, as well as the many props in their own system backpacks, is the biggest confidence that Lin Guang can arrange tactics in this way. The players won Barca by a large score under Lin Guang's tactical system. Therefore, they have unconditional trust in this high-level coach at this time. However, in this room, there was a person who felt a little out of place. Solari quietly closed his notebook, and he felt that everyone on the scene was crazy except himself. This Lin Guang is like this as a coach? The whole process, there is no tactical logic at all. Originally, his coaching strength was bad enough, but he didn't expect that Lin Guang was even more half a tank of water. It seems that this time Real Madrid wants to qualify, dangerous. This Lin Guang should have won a few games by luck before he began to be so arrogant. Forget it, and see what happens next. Maybe after Lin Guang returned to the team still stagnated, and those who scolded me before should regret it. Solari thought of this, smiled and shook his head, then slowly got up and stood up. I'm sorry, I'm going to the bathroom. With that, Solari slowly left the tactical analysis room. Looking at this new assistant teacher who had already urinated, Lin Guang only lightly skipped it, and then gently tapped the whiteboard behind him with a pen at this moment. Folks, now I'm going to write down the starting lineup for this tournament on the tactical board. Lin Guang continued to speak, and at this time, the noisy room suddenly fell silent. First of all, due to Pepe's red card suspension, this time the team's single defender is Las Diala. Except for goalkeeper Cassie, the other 9 are all forwards. Although the position of the striker is the same, you also have to do your job. Of the 9-man forwards, Ronaldo and Kaka have the priority to score with the ball. Ramos and Marcelo are on the left and right flanks of the front, mainly with assists and crosses. In this way, Lin Guang said and wrote on the whiteboard, constantly assigning game tasks to each player. At this time, Lin Guang's voice fell, and the movement of writing in his hand immediately stopped. Well, that's how the starting 11 are like that, the other players are alternates, and then feel free to listen to my orders. Lin Guang put the marker pen aside and then said solemnly to everyone. Yes, coach. The players replied immediately and neatly. After explaining the tactics of the evening game, Lin Guang also exhaled a deep breath at this moment. For the strange formation, Lin Guang felt that it was not much to play like this all the time. However, this match against Zenit cannot be lost. So, the 109 formation of the 9 forwards, in this game, Real Madrid is imperative. In the evening, the Bernabeu Stadium. Real Madrid's match against Zenit is about to begin. As if to make the game more exciting and suspenseful, the Greater European Football Association will cleverly arrange the match between Manchester United and Lazio to start at the same time. At this time, the Real Madrid players have already stood on the pitch in accordance with the formation of 109. The teams on both sides of the game quietly waited for the referee's opening whistle. At this time, Lin Guang stood on the edge of the stadium and waved at the fans at home. Lin Guang! Lin Guang! The fans began to shout loudly at this moment the name of the team's head coach. For this undefeated coach, the fans are very welcome in their hearts. Cut. The more you show it now, the more your face hurts later. Solari stood on the bench, very disdainful. After coming out of the tactical analysis room, Solari felt that it was a wrong decision to stay in the first team. His original intention of becoming a Real Madrid assistant coach again this time was to be able to learn from the amazing coach that the player and fans called him. However, Lin Guang's coaching style has left Solari confused. If it were not for Lin Guang's reputation, he would have suspected that he did not understand the ball at all. After all, from player to coach, Solari is also 20 years old. For Lin Guang's crazy coach who is 109 formation and going into the double digits of the other side, Solari feels that he is completely foolish. Even if the opponent is Zenit, but after all, they are also the champions of their own league, and are there weak teams in the Champions League? Through these few days of working with Lin Guang, Solari has his own final understanding of Lin Guang's defeat of Barca with the 172 formation. That is, Barca is still strong, but Lin Guang's unconventional way of playing cards is completely the type of punching and killing the teacher. It turned out that he was not a coach, but his luck was not as good as Lin Guang's boy. Solari looked at Lin Guang, then at himself, and sighed helplessly. Episode 57, Beep. Just then, inside the Bernabeu Stadium, a loud whistle sounded. Real Madrid's match against Zenit has officially begun. And in the distant city of Manman, in the stadium of Old Trafford, the match between Manchester United and Lazio is tipping off at the same time. Immediately after the start of the match, Real Madrid's 9 strikers rushed towards Zenit's penalty area. With points at the bottom, Zenit had long since lost hope of qualifying. This match against Real Madrid, win or lose, has no meaning for them for a long time. But the sportsmanship allowed the Zenit team to play with all the main players. This game is very important for Real Madrid, and Zenit knows it before the game. However, as soon as the 9 strikers of Real Madrid attacked directly into their own penalty area, the players on the field were still shocked. At this time, Kaka quickly dribbled the ball in the middle, and the other 8 people had already run into Zenit's penalty area. At this time, the Zenit players had to withdraw from the penalty area in full, and they relaxed their vigilance against Kaka, who was holding the ball. Kaka lifted the ball forward, and the opportunity to hit the door was here. Just 5 meters or so in front of the penalty area, Kaka decisively chose to shoot it home immediately. Boo! The ball popped out from Kaka's feet and flew quickly toward the position of the goal. Since the penalty area was full of people at this time, Zenit's goalkeeper was disturbed by the line of sight. In the face of Kaka's shot at this time, the goalkeeper was almost powerless. Duong! The ball hit the crossbar of the goal and was quickly bounced off bounds. Kaka's door is very beautiful, but a little luckless. Whoops! At this time, although Kaka's goal did not score, the fans at home still gave the players a warm applause. Hey! Pity, Lin Guang stood on the sidelines and saw Kaka missing the goal, and he couldn't help but regret it. It seems that the current card strength is still almost meaningless. Do you want to use a peak card against him? At this time, Lin Guang's brow frowned, and he was somewhat entangled. In fact, he has always liked players like Kaka. Lin Guang hopes to find an opportunity to help Kaka restore himself to his previous competitive state. Ahem. This formation is top-heavy. If you can't hit a blow, wait for the other side to fight back. At this time, Solari saw the situation and secretly said to himself in his heart. The layman looks at the bustle, the insider looks at the doorway. With 20 years of experience in football, Solari believes that Lin Guang's strange formation can no longer be repeated. Moreover, after personally experiencing such a style of play, it was even more firm that Solari looked down on Lin Guang. As long as Lin Guang also loses the game, then the team's bad record before is not his own problem. After all, everyone's performance as temporary coaches is incompetent, then it must be someone else's pot. Thinking of this, Solari smiled slyly, and then found a seat on the bench and sat down easily. At this moment, Lin Guang was still standing on the edge of the court, and his expression was so calm and calm. Back off now. At this time, Lin Guang loudly commanded the players to run on the sidelines. Yes, coach. The Real Madrid players heard the words and immediately retreated towards their own half. And when the Zenit goalkeeper serves the goal, the players are ready to defend. Obey your word, order, and prohibit? At this moment, Solari looked at the back of Lin Guang in front of him in surprise. As a coaching practitioner, Solari knows that Lin Guang's behavior has just reached the best realm of a gold medal coach. But he couldn't figure out at all, why could this young temporary coach have such a skill? This person's luck can't be so good in coaching? Just when Solari was puzzled, a familiar voice sounded in Lin Guang's head. Ding! Detected that the host is in a critical game. Option A, lose the game, 1 bonus goal card, 2 bottles of player status potion. Option B, win the match, 2 bonus goal cards, 1 Gyut Jintong card, 1 bottle of team stamina potion, small. At this point, the sound of the system suddenly appears. Select B. Lin Guang heard the words and did not hesitate to choose Dao. Choose success. Item rewards have been sent to the host system backpack. The system replied immediately. At this moment, Lin Guang looked at the various props in his system backpack and shook his head with a helpless smile. Is this system really afraid of losing and not being the godfather of football? All kinds of winning props take turns to send non-stop. In fact, for winning this game, it has long been in Lin Guang's planning. However, for the escort of the system, Lin Guang is still very emotional. No more defense. 9 strikers, give me a rush. At this time, Lin Guang was on the sidelines, confidently shouting at the players. Episode 58. At this time, all the Real Madrid players who returned to the back court were stunned. Don't defend, just rush forward? Is the coach ready for us to let ourselves go? Yes, coach. Despite everyone's doubts, the players answered in unison. At this time, Zenit's players were taking the ball and began to counterattack. On the Real Madrid side, except for Casillas and Los Dieras, the other 9 once again rushed into the other half. System, use the impregnable card now. Target team, Real Madrid. At this moment, Lin Guang immediately communicated with the system. Host requested. Solid Jintoshka used successfully. The target team, Real Madrid's defense, will be unbreakable. The system answered immediately. At this moment, Lin Guang moved a few steps towards the Zenit team's half. The 9 of you, grab the ball straight from the other half. Whether attacking or defending, the football is not allowed to cross the opponent's midfield line. Lin Guang clenched his fist with one hand and then immediately issued his own coaching instructions. Received. Okay, coach. The players on the field answered immediately. The order was prohibited, and the Real Madrid players immediately grabbed the ball in the opposing half. And for this kind of obsessive behavior of the home team, the players of the Zenit team are completely confused. But now that Real Madrid has a void behind defense, the opportunity for defensive counterattacks suddenly appears. It was only seen that Zenit's 2 strikers had already run to the Real Madrid half. And Real Madrid has Las Diala, a scavenger player, so they will not offside in the back. At this point, Zenit's backcourt players no longer have the ball, and they directly choose to pass the ball out of the big foot. Boo. Just as Zenit players passed the ball that popped out vigorously was blocked by Benzema with his back for the first time. Ahem. Coach Lin Guang said that football is not allowed to pass this half. Benzema rubbed his back and said with a determined face. At this moment, although Benzema was in pain, he did not dare to delay after the ball was broken. Rogo, it's up to you. Benzema took control of the ball and immediately passed it to Croce Ronaldo on the right. Good to be here. After catching the ball, Crow, laugh. I saw him push the ball forward hard, and then without lifting his head, he kicked directly at the soccer ball in front of him. Boom. The soccer ball and the boots made a loud crashing sound. At this moment, the football quickly flew out from the feet of C. Ronaldo. Aha! Football straight into the net. This powerful goal is completely unreasonable. Zenit's goalkeeper was just standing still at the moment, without making any saves. Beep. Immediately after, the goal whistle sounded. At this point, Real Madrid led by a goal shortly after the opening. After the goal, Croce Ronaldo jumped high in excitement and then swung his hands back. Teammates also immediately congratulated him, and the fans at home cheered enthusiastically. Solari, who was sitting on the bench, rubbed his eyes. He didn't expect Real Madrid to score so quickly. Ahem. This kind of play that ignores the front and the back is meaningless. Even if you score a goal at the beginning of the game, the team will definitely have no strength in the future. At this moment, Solari once again strengthened his thoughts. Lin Guang was still standing on the side of the court at this time, and he was applauding his player's goal. Ronaldo's goal is not caused by Lin Guang's goal card. It's not that Lin Guang is reluctant to save it, but he feels that it is completely unnecessary. Because in the case of ensuring that the whole team is defense-free, there are superstars like C. Ronaldo, Kaka, and Benzema. Scoring goals is not a matter of time or not. Beep. At this moment, the referee's whistle sounded and the game went on. In the following matches, Real Madrid's players continued to be in a heroic state, directly pressing Zenit in the middle of the half. The Zenit team, which originally did not pursue this game, after the score was behind, the mentality was completely gone. Hey, I said you guys, let the football cross the midfield line. It's so cold, let me run around and find a chance to perform. At this moment, Lastiera shouted enviously at his teammates in front of him. If it weren't for Coach Lin Guang's tactical explanation, Lastiera would have run to the front court to grab the ball and play. Ahem. Diarra, this guy is so lucky. If I hadn't been suspended for my red card, the person who would be showing up in the backcourt now would be me. At this time, Pepe sat on the bench and sighed helplessly. Solari glanced at Pepe, who was sitting next to him, and suddenly fell silent. Because, with the passage of time, Real Madrid, whether it is a front or a defender, is still in a stable state. Solari looked at Lin Guang's back, and then gradually began to wonder. Episode 59, You stinky boys, what are you still inking? Hurry up and score me. At this time, Lin Guang, who was standing on the side of the court, loudly reprimanded. Yes, coach. The Real Madrid players responded again. Under the command of Coach Lin Guang again, the number of Real Madrid players who have completely controlled the situation on the field has begun to increase in the number of goals. Gradually, Zenit's players are ultimately inferior to the home team in terms of strength. Soon, the goal they guarded was lost again. And consecutive goals conceded by the Zenit players, the fighting spirit of the game has been completely lost. However, the Real Madrid striker 9-man group is still attacking wildly. Because, in this game, not only do they have to win, but they also have to score as many goals as possible. Slowly, just 3 minutes before the end of the match, Real Madrid was already leading 9-0. The absolute core of the team, Ronaldo and Kaka, scored 3 goals each. At this moment, in the Santiago Bernabeu, a sea of joy. The fans happily enjoyed the goal feast. And Lin Guang's name was also shouted by fans countless times in the stadium. Zenit's players stood in their own half. They were already hopeless to qualify, and at the moment they were only looking forward to the early end of this game. More anxious than the away team, however, is Solari sitting on the bench. The game, from start to finish, almost upended his worldview as a coach. At this time, he imagined that Real Madrid in the second half of the game, the picture of being suppressed by the away team did not appear. And the top-heavy formation system discharged by Lin Guang did not collapse. Instead, Real Madrid's players seemed to have fully integrated into the system. Even the opposing Zenit team had a hard time carrying the ball across the midfield line of the pitch during the game. How the hell did he do it? Looking at Lin Guang's back standing on the side of the court, Solari murmured unconsciously. Hey, Assistant Solari, don't you understand? Coach Lin Guang has always been a tall man, he can magic. Granero sat down to hear it and hurried to popularize Solari. Stinky pirate, what are you sitting there giggling and saying? Don't change your jersey yet, come to me. At this moment, Lin Guang suddenly turned around and shouted at Granero. Referee, I want to change. Immediately afterward, Lin Guang took advantage of an opportunity to play an out-of-bounds ball and immediately signaled to the third referee. What the? Lin Guang still has to change people at this time? Having already scored 9 goals, does he want the team to score 1 more and complete his pre-match goal double plan? At this moment, Solari's eyes widened, and at this moment he had stood up involuntarily. Here it comes, coach. Granero quickly changed his shirt and ran to the side of the court where Lin Guang was standing. Stinky pirate, after a while after taking the ball, shoot straight at the goal. Even if it's far from the goal, don't hesitate to shoot straight away. Looking at the substitution light that the third referee had already raised, Lin Guang quickly commanded Granero. Yes, coach. Whatever you say, I'll do. For Lin Guang's coaching instructions, Granero decided to carry them out unambiguously and firmly. At this time, Real Madrid was replaced, Granero on and Benzema down. Benzema's departure was also encouraged by the applause of the fans. Because of this game, Benzema also scored 2 goals. Solari was looking at the regular time of the game displayed on the big screen of the stadium at the moment, with the last 2 minutes left. What is the significance of Lin Guang's decision to change people? Solari also stood on the side of the court, and he was watching everything on the court at the moment. Beep. After the substitutions were completed, the referee resumed the game. Ramos stood outside the sideline of Zenit's half, and he vigorously lost the ball out of bounds to Granero, who had just played. After Granero received the ball, he did not hesitate, and directly got up and kicked vigorously towards the football. Boo! The ball flew quickly in the direction of the Zenit goal. At this moment, no one expected that Granero would actually shoot directly at the same place at the door. System, use goal cards. Target player, Granero. At this time, Lin Guang quickly communicated with the system. Received. Goal card used successfully. The system replied immediately. Just then, I saw the football draw a beautiful arc in the air and fly directly towards the goal. Zenit's goalkeeper looked at the soccer ball in the air, cold sweat already oozing from his forehead. Aha! The soccer ball went smoothly into the net. The goalkeeper once again saved and missed, and at this time had to look at the ball and sigh. 1-0. Real Madrid have scored 10 goals at home. Beep. Beep. The referee also blew the final whistle immediately after blowing the goal whistle. This is really a confidant of the sea. At this time, Lin Guang stood on the sidelines and nodded with satisfaction. Episode 60. As teams in both Greater Europe and both regulars in the Champions League, Real Madrid and Zenit are at least brother units. However, today's ruthless behavior of Real Madrid at home still makes Zenit's players want to cry without tears. Immediately after the match, the away team left the Santiago Bernabéu. At the end of the game, Lin Guang still used a goal card. Because he also can't guarantee that the players will be able to score another goal in the last 2 minutes. So I replaced it with Granero and explained it again. As a result, it was perfect, just double digits in goals. For Zenit, they have already completed the game. For Real Madrid, the game is not over. Lin Guang led the players and stood on the court together. They were now looking intently at the big screen over the stadium. The fans did not leave at this time, they all stood in front of their seats, quietly praying. Due to jet lag and stoppage time, the match between Manchester United and Lazio is not over at this moment. On the big screen of the Bernabéu Stadium, the matches between the two teams began to be broadcast live. The time remaining in the game shown on the screen, plus 5 minutes left in the stoppage time. The scores between Manchester United and Lazio have been drawn 0-0 until now. It was clear that United wanted to win the game, finish the group and then take the lead in the round of 16. Blue Eagle Lazio, on the other hand, only wants to win 3 points and then qualify for the group. At this moment, at Old Trafford, the game between the two sides is very anxious. At the Santiago Bernabéu, the whole Real Madrid team and the fans are silently cheering for Manchester United. After all, if Manchester United wins, Real Madrid can have a point advantage and directly qualify as the second in the group. If Manchester United and Lazio are tied, then Real Madrid and Lazio will have to score more goals than whomever they want. If Manchester United lose the game, then the big win of 10 goals for Real Madrid at this moment will be meaningless. At this moment, Real Madrid coach Lin Guang stood quietly at the midpoint of the stadium. The players, on the other hand, put their hands on each other's shoulders and stood silently behind Lin Guang. At the moment on the Manchester side of Manchester City, the game is still going on and soon the regular race time will be over. At this time, at the side of the pitch at Old Trafford, the third referee held up a light sign with the number 3. This means that the game is only 3 minutes away and it has to be over. After Ronaldo's move from Manchester United to Real Madrid, Ferguson established Rooney as the core player of the team. In the space of 2 years, Rooney grew into a football superstar. He has made many great achievements for Manchester United. So, in the last time of the stoppage time, the free kick that United won in front of the pitch was scored by their number 10 Liu Xiaoqiu, who stood in front of the football. This should be Manchester United, the last chance to score. Lazio, on the other hand, lined up a human wall, with players from both sides pushing and shoving each other in the penalty area. Beep. The referee blew a whistle indicating that the free kick could be fired immediately. At this time, the fans of Manchester United and Real Madrid began to tense up. Boo. Rooney looked in the direction where the goalkeeper was standing and immediately kicked the ball in front of him. At this time, the football draws a beautiful parabola in the air. The players in Lazio's row of people immediately jumped up, hoping that they would be able to stop the football. However, the ball smoothly bypassed the human wall and flew directly towards the goal position. The goalkeeper immediately made a save, but the direction of his flight was a mistake. Aha! Football into the net. Manchester United scored a free kick in stoppage time in the final period. Immediately after, the final whistle sounded. The impressive match ended with United's 1-0 Lazio scoreline. At this time, inside the two stadiums of Old Trafford and Bernabéu, there is a sea of joy. Lazio's players, sadly lying on the turf of the pitch. And veteran Klose, standing inside the stadium at the moment, is also speechless. At this point, the Champions League group event where Real Madrid is located is all over. Manchester United qualified for first place in the group. Real Madrid, on the other hand, had a thrilling second out of the group. Lin Guang now crossed his hands at his waist, and he quietly looked at the Manchester United players who were celebrating victory on the big screen of the stadium. When he saw the picture of Rooney, Lin Guang's face smiled lightly. The family has Liu Xiaoqiu, blessed and healthy. Rooney, this number 10 on the court, Lin Guang is very satisfied at this moment. And just when Lin Guang was standing handsomely in the middle of the court, he was once again thrown high by the players. 1. We won. The coach is awesome. Coach, you are a tall man. The Real Madrid players are very excited at this moment. And the entire Bernabeu stadium is shouting Lin Guang's name at this moment. Solari stood lonely on the edge of the court. In this team, he still seems so out of place.